Oh yeah, Crash is back. It's about time, and it feels good. For the first time in over a decade, we're getting a brand new proper game in the series about our favorite anthropomorphic marsupial. A proper sequel to Crash 3 Warped. No, not that one. We don't talk about that one.
How many times have you beaten this clown anyway?
3.
Really? Only 3? Funny. Seemed like more.
No, a proper sequel that lives up to the incredible reputation set by its predecessors. Did this game manage to accomplish that? Well, that is the question we hope to be answering here today. So without any further ado, let's get to it. This is my review of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. As stated earlier, Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time is the first proper sequel to Crash 3 Warped, so naturally, you'll find a lot of things that feel very familiar in this game. For example, Crash himself. Crash returns, and he's every bit as fun to control as he was in the original trilogy. Crash comes back with all his moves still in his repertoire. He has the jump, the spin, the double jump, the slide jump, the crouch jump, sliding, crouching, and don't forget belly flopping. Progression through the levels is still very much the same as well. You go throughout the level, platforming your way through all the boxes, and if you get all the boxes, you get a gem at the end of the level. But here's where one of the additions to the game really starts. The gems are no longer just relegated to breaking all the boxes. No, normally each level has 6 gems that you can collect, all of which require you to complete a certain feat in order to acquire said gem, such as maybe gathering 80% of all the Wumpa fruits, or, as usual, breaking all the boxes, or maybe, how about not dying more than 3 times in a level? How's that for taking the piss? Speaking of boxes, you get so many different types of boxes in this game, it's ridiculous. Of course, you have your standard affair with your regular crates, multi-jump crates, bouncy crates, TNTs, and nitros, but you also get some brand new types of boxes that really add to the platforming challenge, such as multi-jump crates that turn into nitros, or flaming boxes, or time boxes. I think that this is really neat, because it adds an element of difficulty to the game. Now, of course, Crash games have always been known to be difficult, but this game really takes that difficulty to a whole new level. You thought playing the Insane Trilogy regularly was like the Dark Souls of platforming? Oh, trust me, my friend, you've seen nothing yet. Something else that adds an element of difficulty to the game are actually the 4 new quantum masks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we no longer just have Aku Aku giving us the power of invincibility. No, we have 4 new masks that give us 4 brand new powers that help us traverse through the levels. First off, there's Lonnie Loli, who helps you phase through dimensions so you can reach otherwise inaccessible boxes and platforms. Then, after him, there's Akano, who gives you the power over dark matter, which gives you a basically more souped up version of the Tornado Death Spin. The next mask is Kapuna Wa, who gives you the power to slow down time to get through the otherwise impossible platforming bits. And last but not least, there's Ika Ika, who gives you the power to flip gravity. Boy, that took some getting used to. The boss fights in this game were actually a step in the right direction as well. One of the common complaints about the Crash games was that the boss fights were, well, too easy, making your inevitable victory feel quite anticlimactic whenever it would happen. Thankfully, the boss fights in this game have, as I said, taken a bit of a step in the right direction and have become a bit more challenging, and even if they are relatively easy boss fights, they're actually a feast for the eyes, and more often than not, the ears. And some of the boss fights are actually even a throwback to older boss fights from the original trilogy, which, again, is a really nice touch by a developing team, which, honestly, feels like actually poured its heart and soul into the game. The game is also very replayable. First and foremost, at the midway point of the game, you unlock this new mode for the levels called Inverted Mode, which basically inverts the entire level's map and also gives you different graphical styles, adding even more challenge to replaying these levels. Even boss fights get this sort of treatment as well, which again adds another bit of element of challenge. And it's also really cool because these Inverted Mode levels also have their own separate gems, basically adding up to a total of 12 gems for each level. Once again, this adds replay value, because you're not just going through the same level in the same way, shape, or form. No, you're basically going through the level inverted with different graphical styles. Also, time trial relics make a return in this game as well, with you having to beat developer times in order to earn Sapphire, Gold, and Platinum relics. Obviously, old school die-hard Crash fans know these relics are returning from Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, because Crash 1 and 2 originally never had those relics. Getting these relics, once again, requires you to go through the levels differently. Also, it requires complete mastery of all the game's mechanics. I think that's really cool, and again, adds even more replay value to a game already loaded with content. This game also lets you play as different characters. You don't have to play the entire game as Crash. First of all, you can play the entirety of this game as Coco, which is really cool. The game also lets you play as Cortex, who, compared to Crash and Coco, has much less mobility, but instead has a forward dash ability, and also can turn enemies into platforms with his blaster. You then get to play as Dingodile, who, once again compared to Crash and Coco, has limited mobility, but instead, he has a vacuum that can vacuum objects from long distances, and even has a hover ability that lets you jump long distances. Hell, you even get to play as Crash's girlfriend Tana from a different universe, who once again comes with her own abilities. She has a hook line that lets her reach otherwise unreachable areas or crates. She also has a wall jump ability, and well, she doesn't spin to destroy crates anymore, she literally kicks them. Look at that. The game also controls really well, with tight and responsive controls, well, most of the time, aside from the occasional glitch, and also, at least for me, ran at a very smooth and consistent 60 FPS, which is, well, remarkable to say the least. This game looks breathtaking as well. I know some people aren't a fan of the character designs, but honestly, I think they work, and they pull it off really well here. But if you're not a fan of the designs, well, here's some good news for you. The game has you covered there as well, because midway into the game, you unlock classical costumes for both Crash and Coco, which you can use for them for the remainder of the game. So, there's your problem solved. The levels in this game are absolutely a feast for the eyes as well. All bright, colorful, and vibrant. I mean, just look at your screen right now. Look at how much there is going on here. We've got different themes of levels, from New Orleans Mardi Gras inspired levels, all the way to spooky, creepy, dark and damp bayous, all the way to literal prehistoric levels with frickin' dinosaurs in them. This game has you covered in every way, shape, or form. Now, with everything that I've said, you may think that this game is all roses and is a 10 out of 10, right? Well, you'd be wrong, because this game is not perfect as much as I've sang its praises. You remember how I said the game controls really well? Well, more often than not, it does, but occasionally the game just decides to glitch out of its own ass, and, well, it leads to some unfortunate moments and failures for you, which, well, really do get on your nerves. I also think this game has some problem balancing its difficulty. Trust me, I love challenging platforming as much as the next person, but this game really has some imbalances as far as difficulty spike goes. That is especially true when it comes to the later game stages, especially endgame stages. By that point, the game actually expects you to do some of the most crazy bit of platforming that you've ever seen in your life. I am not kidding. I still get PTSD from Cortex Castle. God, that was painful. This sort of difficulty really gets to you even when you're playing casually, let alone a completionist who literally wants to 106% the game. This game will be an absolute pain to complete to 106%. Trust me, you will need a will of steel, because this game is not, and I mean is not, messing around. Oh, and yeah, remember how I said you could play as Dingodile, Cortex, and Tana? Well, you can play as them in alternate timeline storylines, where basically you get to play half the level as them until they coincide with a certain part of the level where they helped you inadvertently in some way, shape, or form. And then from that point on, you get to take control back of Crash or Coco and redo the same level you'd done previously all over again. That is not good game design. That does not add replay value. It's just extra padding, nothing else. That is lazy padding, and that is probably one of my biggest gripes with the game. I would have just loved to have played entire levels as Cortex or Tana or Dingodile and gotten to see their side of the story properly, rather than just, pad the game for the sake of padding to make it a $60 game. Throughout the game, you can also collect these things called flashback tapes, which allow you to relive some of the times Crash and Coco spent in Cortex's lab being experimented on. Now, these are nice little side missions that basically are a nice little diversion from the actual story and provide fun little platforming challenges on the side. Although, I mean, this game will basically run you to the ground with platforming challenges, so maybe you'll have grown sick of them by the time you get to maybe like the 10th tape. Overall though, I found this game to be highly enjoyable. I think this is a fantastic game, and a true return to form for the Orange Marsupial. This was the sort of sequel that Crash 3 Warped needed. This game retains the spirit of the original trilogy, but it also brings in new additions and isn't afraid to experiment, and while it doesn't always stick the landing on what it tries to do, it nails most of what it set out to do down to a T. This game looks and sounds great. It controls and plays extremely well, runs smoothly at 60 FPS, and ultimately, despite some difficulty imbalances, does deliver a very satisfying platforming challenge. And while the game may have some moments of unnecessary padding, overall though, it delivers a varied and fun experience that never gets stale and constantly keeps you on your toes. So, I'm gonna give this game an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my review of Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the game and if you agree with my grade or not. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope to see you all really soon again. Take care of yourselves wherever you are. Stay safe, and goodbye.